Today we're looking at calm expectation, the perpetual prayer. And this is based on a series of talks actually I did a couple of years ago, quoting from Thomas Trord, who was one of the early kind of a science of mind type person, more like an Ernest Holmes than a Charles Fillmore. But I really have always appreciated him. You have to wade through his books because it's very difficult to follow. He was very verbose. He was a judge over in the UK, and he knew the English language quite well, so he used it to its maximum. But I'm not going to quote him a lot, just basically the idea that he shared, and that is the idea of calm expectation, which is a perpetual prayer. It's an attitude. And I find myself, the reason I came back to this is I find myself using this idea quite a bit because it's so simple. Whenever you've got something going on, you don't have to utter, Jesus said don't utter a lot of phrases, when you're praying, to just let it be simple. And to just hold this thought, I'm in calm expectation now. This is my prayer. It's an attitude, it's a state of mind. But Jesus did say, according to your faith, be it done unto you. And I have associated with faith with expectation. In fact, that's what we're at here. You've heard me say that faith is more than belief, it is expectation, a calm assurance that the cause we set in motion will bring a corresponding result. When we say, I have faith in God, we may unconsciously place the outcome beyond ourselves, waiting for divine involvement. So it's good to kind of reel ourselves back in. That's how I was trained, early in life, to think of prayer as you're reaching out away from yourself, because yourself is the one that's got the problem. So obviously the answer's not here. But with this attitude, it is here, because we are choosing to put ourselves in a receptive state where our calm expectation produces positive results. When we say, I am working with divine law, therefore I expect results, we recognize that we are participants in the process of creation. So that's kind of a big part of this is we're not making things happen. We're kind of directing, or, if you're all uptight about your life, you're sort of blocking, damming the flow. You don't really ever stop it. None of us have that ability, but we do stop it in our own mind. And that's 99% of the problem. When you've got a problem, that's where it is. It's your mind, in your mind. It's your perception of fear of the outcome, or uncertainty that things are going right, afraid you might lose something, afraid that you might get hurt in some way. We can do all kinds of things with the imagination to make ourselves crazy. And that whole idea of calm expectation shuts that down. It lets go of it. It puts us back in the creative flow. So that's what it means to think from the point of view that we're working with law. We're changing our mind, and that means that the outcome changes also, the way the flow goes. And again, we don't start or stop the flow, it's always going. But it can be going, and you can be very uptight about your life, and the experience you're having is not a good one. But in the flash of an eye, the flash of a thought, you can go from having a reactive negative experience to one that everything's okay. It's unfolding as it should. And I don't know why we have that kind of reaction. Probably because we don't see the God with skin on. We don't see this old man that's dealing with our problems. And this change of mind affecting the way this natural flow unfolds, it's not a new concept to most of us, but it's sort of a new emotional concept where the knee-jerk reaction is to react negatively emotionally to something, and so we get kind of caught up in that. It does not mean that we are spiritual failures because we have that type of reaction. I've come to believe that there's nothing we can do really to permanently damage our soul or our life. What we can do is put ourselves in sort of a spiritual backwater where nothing feels like it's happening, or it feels, stopped up. And that's where the fear sets in and all of that. But if we can step out of that even for a moment, this calm expectation, if we shift our attention away from the reaction that we're having and just say this calm expectation is a prayer. It's a change of mind. And to allow ourselves actually to experience that. And again, it's not easy. It depends on the situation. If we're having a pretty severe reaction, we may not be able to come to that state of mind right away. And you know what I'm talking about. We all get into that state. But you will. Eventually, you'll get to there where your calm expectation, do I have enough faith to get through this? Just say, do I have enough expectation? Is my expectation in the greater good unfolding? And that's really the power of the prayer. We live in a universe of law. Every desire becomes a cause that must produce an effect. The clearer our cause, the clearer the result. If our desire is vague, our outcome will be blurred. Write your desire plainly if you're into the journaling, writing thing. See it, feel it, give it form in thought, then release it with calm expectation. So when we say every desire becomes a cause that must produce an effect, does that mean if I'm worried that worry is going to somehow show up in my life as a condition? The condition it shows up as is me. What condition am I in? Am I reacting negatively? When we think of the law of mind action, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind, what they're doing is producing a state of mind that's happening right now. And that state of mind that's happening right now is the quality of our life at this moment. There can be a lot of good things going on around you, and if you're all bent out of shape, over some issue, you won't see any of that. You won't experience any of that. But the law is that whatever thoughts you hold in mind, they produce after their kind. So what are they producing? They're producing more thoughts. They're producing a fearful reaction or angry or whatever state of mind we're in that's drawing our experience down to a level we don't really want to be. I think it's best always to take our mind off of conditions, off of the outer altogether. Because if you're real uptight about something and then just say suddenly you lose that, you're in the same place, you're in the same life, the conditions are the same, but you see it completely different. So we're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to be aware of where our faith is, where our expectation is pointed at. It's like I've said with the caterpillar and the butterfly. The caterpillar does not need to change the world to become a butterfly. That potential is within it, and it's the same with us. We feel something is weighing us down right now, something's very challenging. We're that caterpillar thinking, the world needs to change before I can become a butterfly, but that's the spiritual trick that is, the whole idea of the second coming and all of the things people are waiting for. It's waiting for something to change, waiting for something to happen. And I don't know how, if there's a lot of people doing that, but we all do it, whether it's a religious thing or not. We think if this thing will pass, then I'll feel better. And we usually do, when it passes, we do feel better. But so the spiritual principle is to practice feeling better before it passes. If you can feel better now, you've mastered that whole emotional dam that's blocking your sense of well-being, and that's a big step that a lot of people never have learned how to take. It's one of the most challenging things. Unity is a very challenging teaching. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but we're not looking for a savior outside of ourselves. We're saying that if I want my life to be better, I have to start making some new choices. And one of the new choices I can make is to observe where my expectations are, observe where my faith is. To say I have faith in God, we're not talking about, do I believe there is a God? Do I believe in, that there's this entity called God? To have faith is to have expectation. Do I expect greater good to unfold through me now? That's really the biggest question. And the whole presence of God takes care of the rest of that. It's a creative process. And so we're not even in that ballpark. Faith has nothing to do with, do you believe there is a God? Do you believe that if you let go and open yourself to this greater flow, that greater good will unfold through you now? That's what matters. Do you expect that greater good to unfold? So when you actually expect it to happen, you naturally move into more of a state of peace. When you let go and let God, as we say, you experience a natural relaxation. And you see things from a different perspective. The world is exactly the same, but you are not. You're seeing it from a completely different place. And that's, I think that's what sets this kind of teaching apart from the rest of it. It's like the whole idea of salvation. Oh, what do you want to be saved from? What we really want to be saved from is ourselves. It's how we're dealing with our emotions and how we're dealing with our thoughts, because that's what destroys our peace of mind. It's not something outside of ourselves, and it is very easy to think it is, because there are things out there that do trigger us, and people can say things that bother us and whatever. It's very easy to get caught up in things that people do or don't do, or conditions that happen or whatever. And we think, if we just get everything ironed out there, then we can be peaceful. How many of you think you're ever going to get everything ironed out there? The day's going to come when all your problems are solved and you can just sit back and coast, through life. It doesn't seem like it's going to work that way. I've been doing this for 71 years and it hasn't worked that way yet. What I discover is I'm either taking a nosedive or I'm letting go. You can take a nosedive into a negative state of mind over just about everything. It doesn't have to be a real problem. It can be totally perceived, have nothing to do with anything. It's like seeing the person across the restaurant. You think they're staring at you, but they're waiting for their friend to show up at the door, and you just happen to be in their line of sight. You wonder what their problem is. So you're having this whole thing. They're probably not even thinking about you at all. But it's just interesting how we can do that kind of thing to ourselves. How we can take almost anything and magnify it into a very serious problem. And it's kind of interesting. But that's the beauty of the imagination. We can really mess ourselves up, with that wonderful faculty. But we can also let go. We can use it to let go. We can use it to let that flow happen, to envision that flow happening. I stop grabbing on. I stop hanging on to whatever it is I'm hanging on to and expect a higher flow. Know that you're working with law, with calm expectation of a corresponding result. You know that all necessary conditions will come about in proper order. And I guess one of the ways to deal with that is, has there ever been a time when that didn't happen? Have you ever had a problem that just was never solved? You still have it? You had it when you were 3 years old and you still have it? I don't think most of us, well, there are problems, that we kind of carry around, like having a body, dragging that around for all those years, and all the things that go with that. But, I mean, just think about all the times when you felt backed up against the wall, you felt things were really so bad you didn't know what to do. We've all had those moments, and yet we have gotten through them. So it's a flow. There's a flow going on, and if we know that we're working with law, that we're letting the river carry off, carry that creative life force. Think of it as a river carrying off your negative emotions, your negative perceptions, and as I have said before, your prayer's answered when you feel at peace, when you experience that level of peace, as if that thing that you're concerned about is now resolved. And, I don't know how many times each week that I am dealing with this principle myself. Sometimes it's over little things, sometimes it's over bigger things, but it's constant. And it's just, you constantly remind yourself when you start getting uptight about something that this too shall pass, this will be fine. And it's the calm expectation. I expect it to be fine. I expect it to pass. I don't know how it's going to pass. I don't know what the outcome is going to look like, but I made it this far, and I'm sure I'll make it a little bit further. True faith does not strain. It does not plead or push. Like a seed planted in fertile soil, calm expectation knows that growth is already taking place. We do not dig up the seed each morning to check on its progress. We tend the soil and trust the process. And I don't know when I heard that first, that the little girl goes out and checks the seed every day to see if it's growing, and that's, I think I told you this story, but I, as a kid, had one of those little incubators, put a couple of chicken eggs in it. We had to go out in the country and find some fertile eggs, but we did find one of them hatched. But 21 days it takes, for a little chick to form. And so it was during school, and I started hearing the thing peeping, and then you could see the shell was starting to crack, and I was going to be sick that day, but it's like my mother totally understood, my parents understood that I had nurtured that thing, and then pretty soon it pops out, and it's just a little black chicken. And that thing would follow me every place. It just was one of my best friends at that time. But it's a process that happens, that you don't have to do anything to make it happen. It just does. It knows how to do it. And that to me is pretty miraculous, that stuff like that happens, yet we take it for granted. And also what I think is interesting about that is the chick pops out, but it has a little egg tooth on its beak, that's designed specifically to get it out of that shell. So there's an intelligence that's working that knows that chick can use that that thing, and it will last only a certain period of time after it's hatched. But we live in that kind of a universe. So if it knows how to provide that kind of help for this new life, surely it knows how to do that for us as well. But we have this ability to think a problem to death, to just imagine all these other things. I doubt that the chick, when it's realizing, this what used to be a Garden of Eden is becoming a bit tight. I think I'm going to start pecking away and see if I can find something bigger. It probably does not think about, I wonder what's on the other side of this egg. I wonder what's out there. It probably has no concept even of what an out there is. It just knows there's an inbuilt wisdom that's there, and that is an animal we consider like a lower type of intelligence. I don't know, chickens they're not really that smart, but they know how to do that because it's an inborn intelligence. So we're so smart that we can imagine we don't have any inborn intelligence. If I can't figure out how to do it, it can't be done. I'll start worrying. But I don't think chickens worry, so they can't be too dumb. I think that's a pretty good sign of intelligence. But it's the intelligence that's bigger than the intellectual perception that we have. So we're gifted with that ability, and we turn it on the negative. And that's all we have to do is realize, I don't have to do that. I don't have to expect the negative. I can expect a greater outcome. Because I'm like the chicken coming out of the shell, there's something on the other side of this problem. And it is something better than where I am right now. And I have, like that little chick, I have the ability to peck my way out of this shell. And the shell really is our mental and emotional state. It's our state of mind. But we can't see that, but we certainly can experience it, and we're experiencing it all the time. But if we think of it that way, that I'm endowed with the same kind of wisdom that the chick is endowed with to peck its way out of that place of confinement. And how many problems have you had that were like the chick, the shell and all the environment it matures in? It was a perfect solution at one time, and then you got bigger than it, and it's time to break out of it. It's sort of a natural thing. So if we think of whatever it is we're involved in that we're having a negative reaction to, if we think of it that way, I'm just in a place where it's time to open up, to have greater expectations, to open myself to something greater. We don't think of it that way, but if we do, then it makes it a lot more positive. Then we can say, this is just a shell I've got to peck my way out of, and I will. It is helpful to remember the phrase, this or something better. I've said that a million times, and we often think we know exactly what form our good should take, but divine intelligence sees farther than we can. Many times, the better is not what we envisioned, yet it meets our deepest need. And wouldn't it be interesting if you could know what is going on in the chick's mind when it's pecking out of the shell? What's out there? I just know I don't want to be here. It's time to move on. But it wouldn't even think, what is the answer to this? I don't know what they think, but they break out of that shell, and there's another world. There's a whole other place. And those little guys are up fast. They're running around quickly and pecking around and just making themselves right at home in this new environment. So that's, if you look at whatever problem you're going through, any issue you're going through now, if you look at it in the same way, it may feel like it's a long-term thing, and it's not the same. But it is not a long-term thing. It's only as long-term as you're willing to accept. Because it is a mental, emotional state that we're dealing with. Expectation is a change of mind, change of thinking of something in a new way. So your expectations for greater good. Each morning, picture your desire fulfilled and give thanks that it is unfolding now. Each evening, rest in quiet gratitude that the same law continues its work through the night. Calm expectation is not idle waiting. It is faith at rest, an inward knowing that order is establishing itself. So I don't know how disciplined you are. If you wake up first thing in the morning and you have something you're working on and you just envision, everything today is going to work out. But that is a good way to begin your life. Because if we have a problem, or what I find myself doing, and I consider myself a fairly normal human, so I assume you do it too. You have a problem, first thing you do is you wake up and think of that problem, start rehashing, what if, going through all this stuff. But if instead and I do this too, stop that and say, put your expectations, this thing is unfolding in divine order. And today will show signs that that's true. I will see some evidence that that's true. The 21 days is up. It's time to get out of this shell. And there is a divine intelligence. Is that where our expectation is? Or do I have to figure it out? That's why we wake up and start worrying immediately, because we think, do I have the ability, with all my great wisdom, to figure this problem out? Or do I have expectations there's a power greater than myself at work in this situation? And I can then become calm. I can say, I don't know how it's going to work out, but it will. And every step I take today is the right step. I think that's another good thought. So a good affirmation is this: God, the living law within me, is now guiding me in all ways. Every step I take is the right step. I move through my life in confidence and peace. Let's say that together. God, the living law within me, is now guiding me in all ways. Every step I take is the right step. I move through my life in confidence and peace. That would be a good starter for the day, actually. So you might put that by your bedside, and when you wake up and your eyes are open, or put it by the coffee pot maybe when you start having your coffee. Get enough awake where you get involved. So this attitude keeps the heart open and joyful. In calm expectation, we cease striving and begin cooperating with the creative process of life itself. And we say, thank you, God, that this is so. Thank you for watching this week's program. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. We want to reach as many people as we can, and we appreciate your help. We have many subjects in our video lineup, so feel free to take a look. If there's a topic you don't see and would like me to address, just put it in the comment section. I'd love to know what's on your mind. Thanks again for your interest in independent unity, and have a wonderful week.